UAE President visit to India. News. Recently, UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan visited India. Key outcomes of the visit. Trade expansion. Both countries agreed to double bilateral trade to over $200 billion by 2032. Strategic Defense Partnership. Letter of intent signed to strengthen defense cooperation, technology, and training. Energy cooperation. 10-year LNG supply agreement between ADNOC Gas and HPCL for zero point 0.5 MMTPA LNG. Civil nuclear collaboration. Both countries agreed to explore cooperation in advanced nuclear technologies, including small modular reactors and nuclear safety, enabled by the Shanti Act 2025. Digital and AI cooperation. Plan to establish digital data embassies and a supercomputing cluster under the AI India mission. Space and economic partnership. Agreements on space collaboration, MSME trade initiative, and investment in Dolera SIR, Gujarat. Economic key aspects of India UAE relation. Economic ties. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement (CEPA) 2022 boosted bilateral trade to about $100 billion by FY 24-25. Trade partner. The UAE is India's third largest trading partner and second largest export destination. Energy cooperation, a key supplier of crude oil, LNG, and LPG, and supports India's Strategic Petroleum Reserve (SPR). Multilateral cooperation. Both countries are members of groupings such as BRICS, I2U2, UAE, France India, Trilateral, and India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor (IMEC). Remittances. The UAE is the second largest source of remittances to India, with Indian expatriates sending $21.6 billion in 2024, about 19.2% of total inflow. Prime Minister visit to Israel. News. During the Prime Minister's recent visit, India and Israel agreed to strengthen and expand cooperation in key strategic and economic areas. Key outcomes of the visit. Upgradation of ties. Bilateral relations elevated to a special strategic partnership for peace, innovation, and prosperity. Focus on critical and emerging technologies. Joint initiative led by National Security Advisor covering AI, cybersecurity, semiconductors, quantum tech, biotechnology, and space. Institutional strengthening. Joint Commission on Science and Technology upgraded to the ministerial level to enhance high level coordination. Labor Mobility Agreement. Provision for up to 50,000 Indian workers in Israel over the next 5 years. Agriculture and research cooperation. Launch of initiatives like India Israel Innovation Center for Agriculture and 20 joint fellowships in agricultural research. Broad based cooperation. Signing of multiple agreements, about 17 pacts focusing on technology, cybersecurity, innovation, defense collaboration, and startups, along with discussion on IMEC and I2U2 framework. Key aspects of India Israel relation. Diplomatic relation. India recognized Israel in 1950, full diplomatic ties established in 1992. Strategic partnership, elevated to Strategic Partnership 2017 and later to Special Strategic Partnership. Defense and security cooperation. Israel is a key defense supplier to India, providing advanced systems and counter terrorism support. Economic and trade relation. Israel is India's second largest trading partner in Asia, trade led by diamonds, chemicals, and technology. Space technology and innovations includes joint R&D and India-Israel Industrial Research and Development and Technological Innovations Fund (I4F) with focus on AI, cybersecurity, and space. Agriculture and water cooperation, collaboration in drip irrigation, desalination, and precision farming through centers of excellence since 1993. Multilateral and regional cooperation, engagement in I2U2, India, Israel, UAE, United States, and IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor for connectivity and economic cooperation. India Finland relations. News. Finland's President Alexander Stubb visited India. Both nations elevated bilateral ties to a strategic partnership in digitalization and sustainability, marking a significant upgrade in relationship. Key outcomes of India Finland talks. Strategic partnership in technology. Agreed to deepen cooperation in emerging technologies, AI, quantum computing, and telecommunications through a dedicated joint task force, agreement on mobility, environment, and statistics, signed agreement on migration, mobility, environmental cooperation, and statistical collaboration to enhance talent exchange, sustainable initiatives, and data driven governance. Institutional mechanism for cooperation established a joint working group on digitalization and a consular dialogue mechanism to strengthen economic engagement, innovation partnership, and people to people connections. Trade expansion target set a bilateral trade doubling goal by 2030 with stronger linkage between startup ecosystems and innovation driven industries of both nations. Key aspects of India Finland relation diplomatic relations established in 1949, strengthened through high level visits, trade and scientific cooperation. Trade and economy bilateral trade is about 1.5 to 2 billion annually. Finland has a slight trade surplus. Investment and companies. Over 100 Finnish firms like Nokia, Fortum, UPM operate in India in sectors like telecom, energy, and manufacturing. Technology cooperation, collaborations in AI, 4G, 6G, and digital infrastructure. Finland's expertise in complements India's large market. Sustainability cooperation. Finland supports India in circular economy, clean energy, and environmental protection. Global governance. Both countries share views on multilateralism, global reforms, counterterrorism, and rule based order. India US Interim Trade Deal 2026. India and United States have signed an interim trade deal agreement that has reduced the effective tariff on Indian goods to 18%, down from peak 50%, including punitive duties. Key provisions of the agreement tariff reduction by the US. The effective tariff of Indian goods has been reduced from 50% to 18%. This includes removal of the additional 25% duty imposed earlier. In August 2025, the US has imposed a tariff up to 50%, 25% reciprocal tariff plus 25% additional duty linked to concerns over Russian oil imports. India's market access commitment. India will reduce tariffs and non-tariff barriers on imports from US. The reduction cover industrial goods and a range of agricultural and food products. Increase in US imports by India. India will scale up imports from the US to about 500 billion US dollars over time. This includes energy, aircraft and parts, technology products, precious metal and coking coal. Russian oil clause. The US has indicated that the India may halt direct or indirect import of Russian oil. However, this has not been officially confirmed by India. Monitoring mechanism. The agreement allows US to impose tariff if India resumes Russian oil imports. About India US bilateral trade. The United States is among the India's most important trading partners, with India consistently maintaining a trade surplus largely driven by service and high value exports. Bilateral trade has shown strong growth, reaching a record 132.2 billion US dollars in FY25, up from 119.71 billion US dollars in FY24. In terms of investment, the US ranks as the third largest source of FDI in India with cumulative inflow of 70.65 billion US dollars in 2000 to 2020-25. India's major export to US include pharmaceuticals, engineering products, electronics, and gems and jewelry. Key imports from US in India comprise crude oil, LNG, aircraft and components, and defense equipments. US launches Section 301 investigation into India. News The Office of United States Trade Representative has initiated a Section 301 investigation into multiple countries, including India, to examine unfair trade practices linked to global supply chains. About Section 301 investigation. Section 301 is a provision under the Trade Act of 1974 that authorizes USTR to investigate unfair trade practices by foreign countries. Purpose of investigation used when foreign policies are seen as violating trade agreements or discriminating against US commerce, especially affecting US industries and workers. Current trigger the probe focuses on supply chain involving forced labor, which the US considers both a human rights and national security concern. Tariff revival strategy, seen as a mechanism to legally reimpose tariff after earlier tariff measures under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act were struck down by US Supreme Court. Sectors under scrutiny focus on products involving imported intermediaries such as textile, cotton yarn, electronics, components and semiconductors, solar panels, critical minerals like polysilicon, biofuels, palm products. Implications for India: India prohibits forced labor under the Bonded Labor System Abolition Act 1976. However, dependence on imported inputs, especially from China, may expose exports to scrutiny. Possible outcomes: if violations are found, the US may impose retaliatory measures such as high tariff, import restrictions, trade sanctions. Petrodollar system and global oil economy. News: recent US moves on Russian and Venezuelan oil reflect rising concerns over de-dollarization and shift away from petrodollar system. About petrodollar system, it refers to global practice of pricing and settling international oil trades in US dollars, emerging in the early 1970s after the collapse of Bretton Woods system. It originated from US Saudi Arabia negotiations, where oil exporting countries agreed to price crude oil exclusively in dollar in exchange for American security guarantees, a norm later institutionalized through OPEC. Even today, around 80% of the global oil trade is settled in dollar, enabling the US to finance large fiscal deficit and exercise geopolitical influence through sanctions and financial control. About crude oil is a naturally occurring non-renewable fossil oil composed mainly of hydrocarbons formed over millions of years from buried organic matter under heat and pressure. It provides approximately 30% of the world's total energy supply and is refined into petrol, diesel, aviation turbine fuel, LPG, and petrochemical feedstock. Type of crude oil: light crude, low density, flows easily, yields higher proportion of high value products like petrol and diesel, found in US shale fields, North Sea, Nigeria, and Azerbaijan. Heavy crude, high density and viscosity, requires complex refining, found in Venezuela, Orinoco Belt, Canada, oil sands, and parts of Middle East. Sweet crude, low sulfur content, below 0.5%, fewer pollutants, easier to refine, produced in the US, WTI, North Sea, Brent, Libya, and Nigeria. Sour crude, high sulfur content, above 0.5%, requires advanced desulfurization, predominantly found in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Canada, Venezuela, and Russia. Key oil trade benchmarks: Brent crude, most widely used global benchmark, derived from North Sea fields, light and sweet crude, used to price most waterborne crude globally. West Texas Intermediate, key US benchmark, also light and sweet, heavily traded in North America. Dubai, Oman, used to price Middle Eastern oil, especially for Asian markets, often linked to Brent. OPEC reference basket, used by OPEC for its internal pricing decision, comprising of a weighted average of oil blends from member countries. Current crude oil production and reserves. Top producer globally: 1. United States, 2. Saudi Arabia, 3. Russia, 4. Canada, 5. Iraq. Top crude oil reserves global: 1. Venezuela, 2. Saudi Arabia, 3. Canada, 4. Iran, 5. Iraq. India and oil economy. Import dependence. India imports more than 85% of its crude oil, making it vulnerable to global price shocks. Strategic Petroleum Reserves (SPR). SPRs are dedicated stockpiles of crude oil maintained as a buffer against sudden supply disruptions. India's SPR currently provides around 9 to 10 days of crude oil cover. Combined with oil marketing companies' inventories, total emergency coverage rises to 70 to 75 days. Management: India's SPR are managed by ISPRL, Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserve Limited, a special purpose vehicle wholly owned subsidiary of Oil Industry Development Board. Storage location: India currently has three underground caverns facilities: Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh; Mangaluru, Karnataka; Paddur, Karnataka. US attacks three nuclear sites in Iran. Amid a sharp escalation in Israel Iran conflict, the US forces have carried out strikes on three major Iranian nuclear and military installations. About the sites: target Natanz, Fordo, Isfahan nuclear facilities. Primary target Fordo enrichment facility due to its strategic and fortified nature. Significance of key nuclear sites Natanz nuclear facility, Iran's primary uranium enrichment site located 220 kilometers southeast of Tehran, known to enrich uranium up to 60% purity, close to weapon grade threshold. Contains underground facilities to protect against aerial attacks. Fordo nuclear facility, located 100 kilometers southwest of Tehran, built inside a mountain, making it highly fortified and resistant to airstrikes, became operational in secrecy, revealed to the International Atomic Energy Agency in 2009. Isfahan nuclear facility, located 350 kilometers southeast of Tehran, a major nuclear research and conversion hub, hosts Chinese built research reactors and a large pool of nuclear scientists. US submarines sink Iranian warship in Indian Ocean. Recently, an Iranian warship, IRS Dena Moke class frigate, returning from Vishakhapatnam after participating in an Indian Navy exercise, was, was torpedoed by a United States submarine near the southern coast of Sri Lanka. About torpedo A torpedo is a self propelled underwater weapon used by submarines, ship, or aircraft. It moves underwater and detonates on contact or near the target, destroying vessels or submarines. Search and rescue response The Sri Lankan Navy conducted rescue operations. These operations were guided by International Convention on Maritime Search and Rescue. In India's region, SAR operations are coordinated by Indian Coast Guard within Indian Maritime Search and Rescue region. International Convention on Maritime Search and Rescue, 1979, developed under the International Maritime Organization, ensures a coordinated global system for rescuing persons in distress at sea, organizes responsibility among nations for timely rescue operations. Key concerns regarding the attack in Indian Ocean. Military action in international water could escalate tensions, turning the Indian Ocean into a conflict zone, while unclear rules under the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea create legal ambiguity regarding naval warfare. The incident near India's maritime neighborhood raises security concern and also threatens major global shipping routes crucial for trade and energy transport. Governance of international water. International water are regulated mainly by the United Nations Convention on Laws of the Seas, which serve as a global legal framework for ocean and seas. Key maritime zones under UN clause. Territorial sea up to 12 nautical miles. Coastal state has a full sovereignty. Innocent patches is allowed. Contiguous zone up to 24 nautical miles. State can enforce law related to customs, immigration, and taxation. EEZ economic exclusive economic zone up to 200 nautical miles. State has right over marine resources while other enjoy freedom of navigation. Continental shelf coastal states has right over the seabed resources which may extend beyond 200 nautical miles. BRICS Center for Industrial Competencies News India has joined the BRICS Center for Industrial Competencies to provide integrated support service to manufacturing companies and micro, small, and medium enterprises across BRICS countries. About BRICS Center for Industrial Competencies, it is a multilateral public private platform supporting manufacturing firms and MSMEs across BRICS and BRICS Plus nations. It focuses on industrial modernization, digital transformation, and sustainable manufacturing. It operates under the BRICS Partnership on New Industrial Revolution, Part NIR, mission strengthened industrial competitiveness, productivity, and resilience through advanced technologies, innovation, and cross border cooperation. Origin and support launched in 2024-25 at the headquarters of United Nations Industrial Development Organization, which provides technical and institutional backing aligned with global standards. Core function promotes Industry 4.0 and factory digitalization, enables collaboration with technology providers and research institutions, provide market intelligence, advisory support, and access to finance, encourages skill development, productivity, and sustainable practices. Nodal agency in India, the National Productivity Council has been designated as the India Center for BRICS Industrial Competencies. US drops ALARA principles from Radiation Safety Framework. Recently, the US Department of Energy removed the ALARA as low as reasonably achievable principle from its radiation safety guidelines. This signals a shift from precautionary, safety first approach to a more risk informed and cost efficient framework. Foundations of radiation safety. Globally, radiation protection standards are built on two key principles: as low as reasonably achievable, ALARA principle, and linear no threshold model. These are followed by international bodies such as International Commission on Radiological Protection and International Atomic Energy Agencies. ALARA principle, it requires radiation exposure to be kept as low as reasonably achievable, balancing safety, technology, and economic factors. LNT model, the scientific model behind ALARA, assumes that any level of radiation exposure carries some risk, with risk increasing proportionally with dose. Implication: removal of ALARA may increase permissible exposure levels, reducing regulatory burden, and potentially raise concern over worker safety and radiation risk. Globe Network News: India hosted the 12th Steering Committee meeting of Global Operation Network of Anti Corruption Law Enforcement Authorities, Globe Network, in New Delhi. About Globe Network origin, launched in 2021 under the Riyadh Initiative, which was introduced during G20 Saudi Arabia Presidency 2020. Nature functions as a global platform bringing together specialized anti corruption law enforcement agencies. Objective: seeks to enhance international cooperation for detecting, investigating, and prosecuting corruption cases. Membership: open to enforcement agencies of all US member states and signatory to United Nations Convention Against Corruption. India is represented by Central Bureau of Investigation and Directorate of Enforcement. Institutional support, backed by United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, which also serves as its secretariat. Key features: the Globe Secures Communication Platform enables fast and secure exchange of information among investigators and prosecutors worldwide. European Atomic Energy Community, Euratom. The European Union and India have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthen cooperation on peaceful use of nuclear energy under the India Euratom Agreement. About Euratom, it is an international organization established under the Euratom Treaty 1957, which came into force in 1958. Objective: to promote peaceful use of nuclear energy by creating a common market for nuclear materials and technology. It also ensures a secure fuel supply and supports research and innovation, including both fission and fusion. Scope: it mandates limited its mandate is strictly limited to civil nuclear energy with no role in military application. Membership: it was founded by six member countries: Belgium, France, West Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and Netherlands, and now includes all EU member states. The UK exited Euratom after Brexit. Function: regulates the EU's civil nuclear sector, accounts for around 30% of EU's electricity, ensures nuclear safety, proper radioactive waste disposal, and equitable access to nuclear materials, monitors nuclear material through safeguard, and promotes investment and cooperation in nuclear energy. Euratom is involved in developing atomic fusion technology, which has the potential of delivering abundant sustainable energy in the future. Governance: it is governed by European Commission and the Council under the jurisdiction of European Court of Justice. India's bid for full IEA membership. At its recent ministerial meeting in Paris, the International Energy Agency noted progress on India's request to become a full member. About International Energy Agency (IEA), it is an independent intergovernmental organization headquartered in Paris, France. It was established in 1974 in response to the 1973 oil crisis under the framework of Organization of Economic and Cooperation and Development (OECD). Original mandate: to ensure energy security, particularly stable oil supplies and coordinated emergency response among members. Membership structure: 32 full members, 13 associate members, including India since 2017, 5 ascension countries. Membership condition: full membership must maintain strategic oil reserve equal to at least 90 days of net imports. Initial focus area: addressing oil supply disruption, providing energy market data, promoting energy conservation, encouraging international technical cooperation. Expanded role: now covers the entire energy system, including renewable, solar, wind, biofuels, nuclear energy, hydrogen, focuses on climate change and energy transition. Global significance, along with its associate member India and China, Brazil, etc., the IEA represents around 80% of the global energy demand, highlighting its central role in global energy governance. Key publication: World Energy Outlook, World Energy Investment Report, World Energy Statistics, World Energy Balances, Energy Technology Perspective, India Energy Outlook. India's IEA membership, key drivers and challenges, greater decision making power. India seeks full membership to gain voting rights and actively shape global energy policies rather than remaining an associate participant. Enhanced energy security. Membership would enable access to collective emergency response mechanism, example coordinated oil stock release under the International Energy Agency. Influence in energy transition. As the fastest growing energy consumer, India aims to shape global discourse on clean energy, climate action, and critical minerals. Structural constraint OECD link. Full membership is traditionally limited to Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development countries, and India is not a member nor inclined to join, posing a key hurdle. Need for institutional reform. Granting India membership would require amending IEA rules or creating exceptions, raising broader question as other emerging economies, example Brazil, have similar aspiration. Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative, IPOI. News: Spain has officially joined the Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative. About Indian Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative, Nature, a non treaty voluntary cooperative framework for maritime collaboration among like minded Indo Pacific countries. Initiative launch initiated by India in 2019 at East India Summit. Background builds upon India's Sagar, security and growth for all in the region, vision announced in 2015. Objective to promote a free, open, inclusive, and rule based Indo Pacific while addressing maritime challenges through cooperation, not military alliances. Seven pillars: military security, maritime ecology, maritime resource, capacity building, resource sharing, disaster risk reduction and management, science and technology cooperation, and trade and connectivity. Approach emphasizes maritime domain awareness, sustainability, infrastructure resilience, and allows countries to voluntarily read specific pillars. The Minister of State for Women and Child Development visited New York to attend 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. About Commission on Status of Women, it is the principal global intergovernmental body dedicated to promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. It was established on 21st June 1946 by United Nations Economic and Social Council. It is part of United Nations and works to promote women's political, economic, civil, social, and educational rights. Membership composition: 45 member states and UN. Election: members are elected ECOSOC based on equitable geographical distribution. Tenure: members serve a 4-year term. Raisina Dialogue 2026. Recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the 11th edition of Raisina Dialogue 2026 in New Delhi. About Raisina Dialogue: the Raisina Dialogue is India's premier conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics focused on key global challenges, organized by ORF, Observers Research Foundation, in collaboration with the Ministry of External Affairs. Edition 2026 marks the 11th edition of the dialogue. Theme: Samskara, Assertion, Accommodation, and Advancement. Chief guest: President of Finland, Alexander Stubb, attended the inaugural session as chief guest. AI Impact Summit 2026 and New Delhi Declaration. News: the Union government hosted the India AI Impact Summit in 2026 in New Delhi. About AI Impact Summit 2026, hosted by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology MeitY. Duration: 16 to 20 February 2026. Venue: Bharat Mandapam, New Delhi. Global position: fourth Global AI Summit after UK, South Korea, and France. First such summit hosted in the Global South, signaling a more inclusive global AI dialogue. Objective: to move from discussion on AI safety to real world implementation, global cooperation, and inclusive AI driven outcomes. Theme: Sarvajan Hitya, Sarvajan Sukhya, welfare for all, happiness for all, reflecting India's civilizational ethos in technology governance. Guiding principles, three sutras: people, planet, and progress. People, putting humans at the center of AI, ensuring dignity and inclusivity. Planet, developing AI responsibility with sensitivity to environmental and climate concerns. Progress, using AI as a tool for broad based economic growth and social empowerment. New Delhi Declaration on AI Impact. The India AI Impact Summit 2026 in New Delhi concluded with New Delhi Declaration promoting ethical, inclusive, and responsive AI governance globally about nature, voluntary, non binding, global framework for AI governance, emphasizes AI for all and equitable benefits. Global endorsement supported by 89 countries and international organizations, including major powers. 7 Chakra focuses on 7 pillars: resource democratization, social good, trusted systems, science advancement, community empowerment, human capital, and resilient infrastructure. To the point, terms and initiatives in news. 4B movement. Context: the 4B movement from South Korea has re emerged as a radical feminist response to patriarchy and gender based violence. About 4B movement, it is a feminist political movement from South Korea where women collectively reject traditional heterosexual institution viewed as reinforcing patriarchy. It is defined by four no's: by Hon, no marriage, rejecting traditional heterosexual marriage; by Chuslan, no childbirth, choosing not to have children; by Yonai, no dating, avoiding romantic relationship with men; by Sekius, no sex, abstaining from heterosexual sexual relations. Monroe Doctrine, the US action against Venezuela and the capture of its president were defended by Donald Trump using the Monroe Doctrine. About Monroe Doctrine, it is a US foreign policy principle declaring the Western Hemisphere as its sphere of influence, opposing any external, especially European interference. Origin, proclaimed on 2nd December 1923 by James Monroe during his address to the US Congress. Core principles: no new European colonization in the Americas, non interference by Europe, US neutrality in European affairs, and separation of political spheres between Europe and Americas. Evolution, Roosevelt Corollary, 1904. Expanded by Theodore Roosevelt to justify US intervention in Latin America, transforming it from a defensive policy into an interventionist tool. Project Vault. Context: the Donald Trump administration has recently launched Project Vault. About Project Vault, objective: establish a strategic domestic stockpile of critical minerals within the United States. Governance structure: designed as an independently managed public private partnership (PPP). Financial support: backed by a 10 billion US dollars from the Exim Export Import Bank of United States, supplemented by an additional $2 billion from private sector investment. Mineral coverage: it encompasses 60 minerals listed in the US E- Geological Survey 2025 critical mineral list. Forge Initiative. Context: the United States announced the launch of the Forum on Resources Geostrategic Engagement Forge at the first critical mineral ministerial held in Washington, D.C. About Forge Initiative, it is the successor to US led Marine Mineral Security Partnership. The main objective of Forge is to promote collaboration among partner countries at both policy and project level to develop diversified, resilient, and secure supply chain for critical minerals. 3 Cs Initiative. Context: India's External Affairs Ministry discussed connectivity and infrastructure cooperation with Croatia's envoy for 3 Cs Initiative at Raisina Dialogues 2026 in New Delhi. About the 3C Initiative, it is a regional cooperation platform of 13 European Union countries located between Adriatic, Baltic, and Black Sea. Members include countries such as Austria, Poland, Romania, Greece, and others from Central and East Europe. Total 13 EU members. Objective: aim to enhance economic growth, energy security, connectivity, and regional cooperation in Central and Eastern Europe. Context: North Atlantic Treaty Organization (NATO) launched a mission, Arctic Serenity, to bolster security in Arctic. About Arctic Serenity, it is a multi domain mission aimed at strengthening defense coordination and stability in Arctic region. Purpose: to protect NATO territory, ensure security of member states, and respond to challenges such as increased Russian military activity and rising Chinese interest in Arctic. Context: due to the US Israel conflict, global nations halted or delayed energy exports by invoking force majeure amid war related disruptions. About force majeure is a contractual provisions that allows parties to suspend or exit obligations without liability when unforeseen and uncontrollable events like war or disasters prevent performance. It applies only when events are beyond the control of parties and make contract execution impossible, rather than merely difficult or costly. Power Gap Index. Context: the Economic Survey 2025-26 used the Power Gap Index to highlight that India is performing below its strategic potential. About Power Gap Index, it is a derived measure based on Asia Power Index published annually by the Australia based Lowley Institute. The index evaluates the overall power of countries in Asia by assessing their resources and influence. It covers 27 countries and territories using 131 indicators grouped under 8 broad categories: military capability and defense network, economic strength and relationship, diplomatic and cultural influence, resilience and future resources. According to the 2025 edition, India has a power gap score of minus 4.0, indicating that it has not fully utilizing its strategic potential. Conflict regions and news. Rojava region, Syria. Context: renewed clashes between Syrian forces and Kurdish led SDF threatened autonomy of the Rojava region in northeast Syria. About Rojava region, it is a de facto autonomous region in northeastern Syria with no international recognition. It covers parts of Aska, Raqqa, Deir ez-Zor, Aleppo in northeastern Syria. It is strategically located along the Euphrates basin and key oil and gas rich areas of eastern Syria. Borders: Turkey to the north, Iraq Kurdistan region to the east, Syrian government controlled areas to the west and south. Nakura and Tyre, Lebanon. Context: targeted during recent military operations of Israel. About Nakuro and Tyre. Nakuro, headquarters of UNIFIL, UN Peacekeeping Force. Tyre, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Historic Phoenician city known for Roman ruins. Located on the southern coast of Lebanon. South Par gas fields. Context: attack during the ongoing conflict between Iran and US. About South Pars, located in Persian Gulf, shared by Iran and Qatar. It is the world's largest natural gas field, accounts for major share of Iran's gas production. Ras Laffan. Context: targeted by Iran due to its importance in global LNG supply. About Ras Laffan, located in Qatar on the Persian Gulf coast, world's largest LNG export hub, handles a significant share of global LNG supply.